Alright, hi everyone, this is Anne. Today I'm going to do the decision tree 2. So we start with a woman who is a resident at a nursing home, and she is taken from her room to the shower room, which is just down the hall. A few minutes later, you enter her room to deliver her daily newspaper and find a nursing assistant going through her dresser. As a volunteer in the nursing home, I chose to say nothing to the assistant and lay the resident's newspaper on her bed and leave. So, the questions are: what has led you to leave the room? Do you feel that there's nothing out of the ordinary here, or do you feel it is not your place as a volunteer to get involved? So, as a volunteer, I do not feel like it is my place to get involved. I don't know this employee personally or her intentions. For all I know, she could be looking for some shampoo for this lady, her glasses, so she's more oriented when she gets out of the shower. So it could perfectly be something that the lady might need. So if I was an employee and I knew this coworker personally and maybe she didn't have good intentions, it possibly could be a different story. So the second question is: instinctively, do you feel that there is something wrong in this scenario? Something legal or ethical, perhaps? So, with my instincts, yes, I do believe there's something wrong with the scenario. I feel like the snide remark in option 1 that the employee made, like, I don't have time to talk to volunteers, is what made me think that. So, maybe if she said, oh, like, Mrs. Jones needs her glasses, then maybe I wouldn't feel so suspicious. So, one of the rights in the Michigan resident rights, this is one of the documents that was attached, states a patient or resident is entitled to retain and use personal clothing and possession as space permits. At the request of a patient, a nursing home shall provide for safe keeping of personal property and funds, except that a nursing home shall not be required to provide for the safekeeping of property which would impose an unreasonable burden on the nursing home. Here, her items were definitely not being retained, but possibly stolen. No resident should feel uneasy about where they live, nor be worried about their valuables being stolen in their own home. Also, it's kind of a disruption of privacy in this way. When residents leave their rooms, they shouldn't, be worried that something's going to happen. This is their home and we're just guests in it. So, second, you are scheduled to volunteer in the nursing facility a few days later, but when you arrive, you and every other volunteer in the facility are questioned about the disappearance of a resident's 2 wedding rings. You report that you have no knowledge of the disappearance, but as you begin to think about it, you wonder if it is the resident who was in the shower the day you delivered her newspaper. You know that if you inquire, suspicions might be raised about your involvement. If you do not inquire, would you feel guilty or not guilty regarding your decision? I chose to inquire and are immediately asked why and if you know something about the disappearance of the rings. That led me to a few hours later, you hear from another volunteer that it was the woman who was in the shower and her rings were located in her top dresser drawer. You wonder if the nursing assistant had anything to do with this disappearance. You didn't exactly see the rings in her possession, but you wonder if you should have said something more to her that day. After all, she may have just been retrieving new clothing for the resident to wear after her shower. You worry all day and cannot make a decision regarding what to do. So, I chose. Finally, you decide to approach the nursing assistant and ask her yourself. She becomes offended, stating, "How dare you imply that I had anything to do with the disappearance of that resident's rings?" So this leads me to the question of: do you feel good about the choices you made? What are the legal and ethical ramifications of the decisions you made, if any? Would you do anything differently? So I do feel good about deciding to confront this employee. I work in assisted living place. So rings are most often items of sentimental value, and is definitely not something to just forget about. There are a lot of memories attached to rings, and a lot of widows, so those mean a lot to these people. So I guess this was just kind of my instincts coming out. I love the elderly very much, and one of your jobs kind of as an employee is to advocate as much as you can for these patients. So a possible ramification I could face is if the employee I confronted in public turns out not to be the person that stole the rings, I could be facing slander, which was a topic mentioned in one of the articles as well. So slander is when a person's character is injured verbally. I believe libel was also mentioned. That's when it's in writing. So before confronting her, I should have been 100% confident in my accusation, like seeing the rings in her hand or her pulling the rings out of the drawer. So you need some validation when you confront someone like that. So that's a possible ramification I could face from confronting her. So that is my decision tree 2. And yeah, have a great day.